Hello everyone, welcome to the Psychology of Dating podcast. You are listening to Nadine Newkirk, me. I am both a clinical psychologist and a dating coach. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about a Dialectical Behaviour Therapy, DBT skill, and it's called ABC Please. It's an acronym, and this skill is all about how to increase pleasant emotions in your life and how this can be applied to dating. How can you increase pleasant emotions as you're going through the dating process? Before we jump into that, I'd like to remind you that I've got a free guide. It's called Top 3 Mindset Shifts in Dating. And it's really common for our minds to come up with certain explanations of why dating hasn't been working the way that we really want it to. And sometimes these reasons are, I must just be unlovable. There must be something fundamentally wrong with me that no one wants to date me. Or it might be, I can't pick the right people. I'm destined, doomed to end up with people who are unhealthy for me. And if you ever experience any of these thoughts, then it can be really helpful to introduce new ideas, new beliefs to your brain, and it won't stick straight away, but the more you can practice it, read it, hear it, then over time it can open up these other pathways for your brain to think something new. So I'll pop a link to this free guide in the episode show notes and you can access it there. Okay, today's episode, looking at the DBT skill, the Dialectical Behaviour Therapy skill of ABC Please. So this skill is if you're noticing my days, my weeks, my months are a bit out of balance. It is normal human experience to have an array of emotions. We'll have unpleasant ones that can feel a bit more uncomfortable in the body, maybe anxiety, guilt, fear, shame, and sadness. And we can also experience joy, happiness, fulfillment, contentment. And sometimes in dating, we're finding that the balance is out, that I'm starting to dread going on dates because I'm already pre-thinking it's not going to work out. What's the point? Or I get really excited and pin a lot of hopes on a date and have really big crashes if maybe they don't want to go on a second date. So how can we tip the scales a little bit, have something within your control where you can add a few more pleasant emotions to your dating experience? And every bit counts, even if it's 1%, 5%. Sometimes we think, oh, it's not worth it unless I 100% feel better. But if I knew the 100% quick fix to just feel completely content all the time, then I would be a complete trillionaire. But what we can do is we can add these strategies. Like you've got a toolbox and we add the spanner, we add the hammer, we add some nails, and bit by bit, every 10%, 5% adds up. And if you, over time, have built this toolbox where you feel at least 30% better, that is significant in your dating experience. So ABC Please, I'll start with the ABC part. The ABC each stands for something you can do to help you build up a bank of pleasant emotions. The A stands for accumulate positive emotions by doing pleasant things. And this might sound obvious, but sometimes when we feel stuck, we forget to go back to the basics. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to do what we know works in maybe other areas of your life. So you can try and accumulate positive emotions by doing pleasant things, both specifically in dating and also outside of dating. For example, outside of dating, you might make sure that you don't have a week just booked with dates. I've seen some people where, the whole calendar's chock-a-block with only dates, but this is exhausting, and it's also hard to keep that socialization up because when you're meeting people for the first time, the conversations are different compared to when you know someone, several months or 6 months in. You have more depth. You can get more reward or excitement sometimes from these more longer lasting connections. So people can feel quite worn out when they're having a lot of these first dates. So maybe you, in your week, you schedule in a pleasant event with your friends. You have, dinner or doing a movie night or something with your friends alongside another date in that week. And then no matter how the date goes, you've still got something in your bank account. You've still got a pleasant event and some positive emotions there. Maybe you schedule in a holiday, making sure that you have a bit of a break in the year, every quarter of the year, making sure you do something, a weekend away. Maybe you do some pleasant events of self-care. When was the last time, doing something just for you, even if it's getting a fresh haircut or go get a massage or just sitting outside in a park and reading a book for half an hour, something that fills your cup, and this is unique to each person. You can also schedule pleasant events specifically for dating. Maybe it's organising an activity that you've really wanted to do yourself and you'll enjoy regardless if you're with who you're with. Maybe you've wanted to try, I've always wanted to try that axe throwing where they have like a little target board and you try and throw that. Maybe you've wanted to do an art class, any type of hobby, or maybe it's just a location or suburb that you've wanted to explore. You could use this opportunity of going on a date to do that activity. Maybe there's certain conversations that you're interested in. And when you're meeting new people, they have different interests or expertise or knowledge. And just thinking about how can I ask, these question about maybe there's a current event or politics or history or whatever you're into. Maybe you can ask someone some questions, and sometimes the conversation won't lead anywhere, but sometimes you never know where it can branch out and can be quite interesting. So you can experiment with this on dates, asking these questions. This also helps the focus rather than being solely narrow-minded of this person needs to be my number one, otherwise it's not worth it. Or I need to make this person like me, otherwise I'm going to feel unlovable. These might not be conscious intentions, but sometimes we can go into dates with this intensity. And it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy that we put so much pressure and emphasis on it that it was never an achievable goal just for one date, because you can't know someone truly on just one date. So having some other focus, some other things that you want to get out of the date rather than this just needs to work. Maybe you also can accumulate pleasant events and do pleasant things by having a new cocktail when you go out or trying a new type of cuisine or food. It doesn't have to be too big. Maybe it's going a different route on your bicycle to the date or going for a walk around the park. Whatever it is that gives you a little flicker of contentment, satisfaction, or joy. Number 2 in the ABC is build mastery. Building mastery is where you do an activity that you enjoy, but you're not an expert in. You've still got scope and growth there, room to learn. I love yoga, and when I started, I knew nothing about it. So each time I've gone to a class and I've done a training and things like that, I've built up my competency. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect at it. It's actually just fun. It's playful. When I was trying to do headstands, I was, falling down. I would laugh about it and, learn new techniques of how to do it. And when it finally clicked, realizing, it's not actually trying to just maneuver my legs up. It was more about core strength and engaging, the abs before you tuck the knees in and lift the legs up. For anyone who does yoga, that'll make sense. But the satisfaction when I, reached that goal and then, playing and having new goals, and it's all about failure and growth, and it gives that sense of play, which sometimes as adults we can miss. I've got a young baby and she's very good at play. That's mostly what she does all the day. But as adults, we can be very focused on just being perfect at things, getting tasks done, life admin, work. And it's really important to have this play, creativity, not being perfect activities in your week. So again, you can choose to build mastery in activities outside of dating to help fulfill you, and also within dating. If you were to do something that builds mastery in dating, here's some ideas. Maybe you don't feel so comfortable flirting with someone, so maybe you practice it. Okay, today I'm going to hold my eye gaze a little bit longer. Or if I feel comfortable and want to practice, appropriately giving a playful touch on the arm. Or maybe it's practicing being funny on a date. Maybe you want to practice jokes or smiling or having that more light-hearted side. Or maybe you find it harder on dates to be more vulnerable, to talk about emotions or conversations with more depth, and maybe you practice a little bit of that on a date. I was practicing when I was dating how to ask someone if they wanted kids. I used to avoid the conversation, think it was really big and scary. But when I started to ask it, it actually started to be fun. In a strange way, it brought up a bit of nerves when I was like, okay, how am I going to weave this question in? I've only got 5 minutes left of the date. I got to ask it before the date's ended. But I felt this sense of achievement. It didn't matter what the person's reaction was. Like, I was proud of myself for doing it. And then the last of the ABC, so the third skill in ABC, is C for cope ahead planning. So when you cope ahead, this is where you rehearse ahead of time how you're going to navigate a potentially difficult situation. Pre-planning what skills you'll use, how you'll manage this difficult emotion. Maybe you experience a lot of anxiety on new dates, and it might be practicing skills to manage anxiety, relaxed breathing, maybe it's self-talk, and then also thinking ahead of time, how could I use it in this situation? What would I say back to this person if they say this? It's not just hoping I'm going to do it different next time. It's actually really coming in with a specific plan and thinking about what could go wrong, what's the worst case scenarios, but not just stopping there, because that is worry. It's going another step and actually saying what you do instead. And I've got a whole episode on cope ahead planning if you want to look at that. That's the title of it, cope ahead planning. ABC please skill is broken up into 2 parts. So there's the ABC part, and then there's please, which is also an acronym. That is about looking after your body physically so that you can have more pleasant emotions. So the P stands for, well, it starts with a T, but they add the P in, treating physical illness and taking medications as prescribed. So evolutionary-wise, if you are really sick or if you have a cold for a couple of weeks, your body wants you to stay in and hibernate and not do too much so your body can recover. So a way to do that is our mood drops, which actually then makes us do less. And this helps us recover. But it's also really difficult when we've got that low mood. And sometimes you might be ignoring, I just need to take a couple of weeks off and really rest and then go back into dating. We feel like we're going to waste time or it's going to be too late if we do that. But taking time to really take care of your physical health so that you can go into dating with more energy and more effectively. The L is, it's actually the first part, so physical illness, so that's the P and the L in the acronym. Then the E stands for balance eating in order to avoid mood swings. So for example, I'm not a dietitian, but just you might look it up on the internet or seek advice, but not having too much sugars or things like that spike your energy, but then you might have a crash, maybe having some more whole foods and things like that. The A stands for avoiding mood-altering substances. So things like alcohol, drugs, what they do is they can make you feel good in the moment, but then they have that side effect. Alcohol's a depressant and it can really lower mood. If you've ever had a hangover and you feel a bit down the next day, that can be why. There can be changes in your serotonin, in your neurotransmitters, which changes and alters your mood, makes you more vulnerable to experiencing unpleasant emotions. The S stands for maintaining good sleep. There's something called sleep hygiene, which is a 1 A4 page of practical tips of how to improve your sleep. And you can look that up easily online, called sleep hygiene. We know that if you have 1 hour sleep compared to 8 hours, it can dramatically change how your mood is, also your vulnerability to experiencing intense emotions that can seem to come out of nowhere. If you're sleep deprived, then you're more vulnerable to experience those sudden changes. And then the E stands for exercise. We know that exercise helps us excrete stress hormones, which then boosts mood. It also helps release endorphins, which is good for mood. And they've shown that for mild to moderate depression, exercise is just as effective for balancing mood. If you want more information on tips to balance your nervous system to feel more stable, I recommend you listen to my episode, Top 5 Pillars of Nervous System Health. Okay, everyone, it was a pleasure speaking with you all. A reminder, I've got an upcoming dating coaching program for February 2025, so this year. Enrollments are now open. You can find a link to that in the episode show note. The group is going to go for 12 weeks, 3 months. It will consist of weekly 1-hour groups and also 3 individual coaching sessions. So it will be divided into practical skills, essential skills to build your dating confidence, build your toolbox, skills like I discussed today, but that are applied to dating. And they can include communication skills. It can include how to filter and know your boundaries and deal breakers in dating. It can include topics like sex and dating, navigating exclusivity with someone, and managing your own thoughts and emotions in dating, because a lot of people don't realize this is actually 50% more of the work. That we can do some things to help you manage your external situation, but we can't control other people on dating. And the thing that we can focus on is you and your own mind. And the group is there to have a supportive environment where we can explore this and also have that tailored one-on-one coaching as well. Have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll speak with you all next week.